Everyone, welcome to the show today. We have an awesome guest. Okay. Very excited about the show today. Before we get to that, make sure that you subscribe to this podcast just so you get notifications when we drop new episodes. Also, make sure to leave me a review, whatever platform that you listen to this on, YouTube, whatever. Make sure to make sure to leave me a review. That helps people find it that are looking for it. And it just kind of increases it in the algorithm just so we can get some good free information out there for people that are entrepreneurs wanting to start grow their companies. So anyway, make sure to subscribe. And without further ado, I would like to welcome to the show Tim Cakir. And just to kind of introduce Tim a little bit, guys, he's a growth consultant and he helps companies, entrepreneurs, and students achieve fast and consistent growth. I love that. I mean, consistency is huge. He also teaches bachelor and master's programs at two separate universities in Barcelona. And I'm just excited. Oh, check this out. He's also a DJ. So talk about a well-rounded guy. Welcome to the show, Tim.
Allan, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
So a DJ, huh? How did you get rolling with that?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. I think I was quite young and my dad had some vinyls and I used to like to play with him and he used to get angry a lot. So then I said one day that I'm going to become a DJ and he never wanted me to go to school for music. So I had to do business management. But one day I convinced him for sound engineering and he allowed me to do sound engineering. So I did that, and in the meantime, I was DJing in the weekends. Then I found myself in the London underground scene, and I was DJing some techno parties. It was awesome, but I can't do that anymore. I can't party from Thursday to Monday anymore.
Yeah, DJs have to, party a lot, right? That's kind of part of the gig.
Well, it's like the fashion industry. You have to be there. You have to be in the backstage. You have to be in the green room. If you're not there, they forget about you. So.
Gotcha. So where did that connection between being a DJ and business come from? Like what closed that gap?
That's a great question. It wasn't just DJing, but I had a online recording studio, a music recording studio, sorry. I had a online radio station. And I was touring some techno events in London. I was DJing myself sometimes. I was booking some big DJs. And I did that about 5 years in London. And I realized that the only thing that I was doing was marketing. And I was marketing my events. I was marketing the radio. I was marketing the studio. So slowly I realized that I could do the same thing for startups and tech companies. And that's how I slowly switched so that I could not have to be out from Thursday to Monday.
Nice. Let's talk about your business background a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your experience, some of the things that you've done. Just to give you an idea, a lot of my listeners are entrepreneurs, business people that are trying to really scale their companies. And I know you have some experience with that. And I want to kind of get into a line of questioning about marketing and some other things that people can do to scale their companies. But tell us a little bit about your background, especially, as it relates to, business and entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I was lucky enough. About 16, when I was 16, I moved to Seattle, and there I was just in college. But about 17, I moved down to LA, and I had the chance to meet this Turkish guy who was selling carpets, door-to-door carpets. And I got involved with him. That was my first business gig. And about 18, I had made quite a bit of money just going door to door and selling carpets. And I always joke, like, it's not flying carpets, but you just throw the carpet in front of him, you're like, it's almost flying, And it was a lot of, back then it was hard sales. I wouldn't do it again. I'm not that proud of the things that I had to say to sell these carpets. So that started on sales, and then I realized that marketing was kind of a sales, but you would show the product to the people that might need it, or you would find the people that needs the product instead of just, aggressively selling something to somebody who doesn't need, right? So then I got into marketing, and that's where I got more into the music scene, because I was like, oh, okay, I prefer the music scene, as we mentioned, and it was DJing and so on. And I realized in the back end I was just marketing everything that I was doing, and I wasn't actually sound engineering anymore. I wasn't DJing anymore. So I was like, okay, I'm an official marketeer actually. In London, I had the chance to help some media companies at first, because that's how from music to media was a closer connection. And I realized that marketing was really the thing that I loved. I had the chance to do, back then it was quite cool. I'm not sure if it's still cool because it got very commercialized, but it was Google Squared. Google had this marketing certificate, and I did that in the past, and I called myself an official marketeer. From there on, I helped this publishing company that was quite offline, magazine publishing. I helped them digitalize all their offerings, because if not, they had to close shop. And I became about 6 months head of digital, because they didn't have anyone in digital. So then I really realized that the tech scene, the digital stuff, was really where I had my passion after music. And that brought me into startups, tech companies. After that, I had the chance, somebody invited me to Barcelona for actually an interview. And I stayed in Barcelona since. And in Barcelona, the new trend of growth hacker, as we call it, was rising. And I was like, oh, okay, I need to be a growth hacker. And so here I went to a certificate program called Growth Tribe. I did that on growth hacking crash course kind of thing. And I love studying, and you'll see that's why I'm teaching now as well, because I just love education. And that brought me to actually on stage in Spain in a couple of big events and talking about growth, talking about how to grow companies, not just from marketing, but then I start changing that around, saying that growth doesn't come from only marketing. Growth comes from operations, growth comes from sales, growth comes from product, growth comes from customer service, growth comes from everything in the company. And I had a few people ask me, what do you mean by that? And I said, growth is when the right people, they're at the right place, they have the right tools, they have the right goal, they will grow your company anyways, right? So you can let them grow your company if you give them the tools, the training, and the goals that they need. And that's how I found myself in growth consultancy. I've helped about 17 companies, not just startups, but about 17 companies till today, counting, just signed a couple of new clients. My biggest success story has been helping SaaS companies from 78k MRR to 300k MRR in about 18 months, and it was fun, right? It was just like finding new ways to do things, and I think that's why we're here speaking, because I love to find new ways for growth.
Yeah, I love that. So let's dive into that a little bit, right? You kind of skimmed over it pretty quickly because you're so. I think that's kind of in your nomenclature. You're used to discussing how there's lots of different ways for companies to grow, not just marketing, right? But we spend a lot of time focusing on marketing. But specifically, let's talk about some ways that, for example, the operations of a company. How do the
Mhm.
operations of a company help them grow? And in terms of growth, are we talking about like actual top line revenue? Are we talking about operations can help increase sales? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I'll tell you why. It's very, very easy actually in my head. I mean, I hope that everybody can see that as well. But I've tested this and it works. How many times you've started in a company and you've seen your job description, right? And you applied for the job, you started the job, they shown you your job a little bit and they left you, right? And then you're supposed to figure out things and so on. How many companies actually make sure that the mission statement, the just cause or the vision statement is always in front of you? How many times companies actually make sure that you know the goals day to day? How many companies will make sure that you have the right tools that you need, right? This doesn't happen often, right? So operations for me is to make sure that if Allan today wants to remember exactly how to do his job that he was hired for, he has a Bible, a guide, you can call it whatever you want, right? And making sure that some call it SOPs, some call it processes, I call them activities, right? Is making sure that yes, you have a bunch of activities that you have to do in the day, you have a bunch of tech tools that you're using, right? You have a bunch of goals, right? And these have to be attached together. And as soon as this is available and transparent and articulated well, day to day, and you live this, right? As an operations person, you make sure that your team members are there, they know what's going on, they have the right things at their hands, they have the right training, they know where we're going, they're rowing in the same direction is also a thing, right? How many times marketing goes towards the right, sales goes towards the left, right? And the CEO is like, yeah, but this is where I'm trying to go, right? The second that you bring that row team, they're rowing all strong like Olympic rowing team, you put them together in the same direction, it goes much faster. And that
I love that. I mean, I think you've hit the nail on the head, right? With and I talk a lot about vision. I talk a lot about and there's a couple of interchangeable words. I talk about a company's mission statement, and we use ours in a lot of the companies that I own in all sorts of different areas. We start talking about our vision, about our core values before we ever hire somebody. We want to make sure that we're getting the right people on board. I want to ask you, Tim, though, small business owners, entrepreneurs, man, we're busy, right? What is the process for making sure that our team members, they always have those goals in front of them, right? I'm always thinking about systems, ways to streamline things. Give us some examples. What are some things that, let's say that I have a listener, this individual, she has 3 or 4 employees and she's doing a whole bunch of stuff, doing a lot of work for the company still. She's not big enough to hire all of her duties out. What are some things she can do to make sure that her people are seeing what the goals are every day, knowing where they are towards, their progress with those goals? What are some things they can do for that?
That's a great question, because I mean, it's not about budget, right? It's you can do even small things to make sure that your team members have this available in front of them. So one of the things is, like, we all use Drive, right? Google Drive. And how many times you find the document that you need? How many times you come on Google Drive and you see exactly what's there, right? There is no company home. There is no digital company home. And especially since COVID, right? We've all been remote, right? Where is your company home? Right? We don't have a company home anymore, right? So your company home should be a knowledge management software. This could be a Notion, a Coda. There's so many of these tools out there today that the first thing you do in the morning, you log in, right? The second you log in is your company home. You have your mission statement, as you said. I call it Just Cause now, because Simon Sinek had an amazing video about this, and I really love it.
Just Cause.
Yeah, the Just
is that okay? Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Simon Sinek had an amazing video on that. I do recommend it to everybody to watch it, and to hear what he has to say about this. And how many times do we really in the morning open up our company home and remember that? Like, do you remember that? Like, we don't do this, and this is what exactly we have to do. We have to have a central system, right? As you call it, system. I love systems. I'm all about system. I'm building a system myself now. And how many times can I come in the morning, see that statement, that mission statement, that Just Cause, that vision, whatever, right? How many times I wake up and see that and I live it? We don't live this anymore. We remember it, as you said, when we interview or as you're onboarding, you're training, and then 6 months later, 9 months later, ask a team member, what was the Just Cause? Most of them forget about it. They try, but 10 team members will tell you different things.
I love that, because and we get crazy with stuff, right? The small business owners get pulled in so many different directions, especially early in the morning, right?
Yep.
First thing, you have emails, phone calls from the previous day, the previous night. But I like this concept of having this system, right? You mentioned a couple of potential softwares that offer a service that allows this, but having your team members log in, I think that's a great idea. And the first thing that they see is the company vision.
Yep.
I love that. And I think my companies, I feel like we talk about company vision, goals, perspective, our why a lot more than an average company, but that's next level. That's literally daily, not only daily, but the first thing, right?
Let me add
something. I think that also sets a tone for the day, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you just said it, Allan, the why, right? And when a team member wants to do a project or they want to do something, ask them why, but not just why. Ask them, how does it relate to our mission statement? How does it relate to our why, right? Why is this project important now when we have our reasoning, right? When we have our just cause, and make them, I don't want it to be difficult, but just make them write a little paragraph about this. The second they write this paragraph, they realize that project is important or not for the just cause, for the mission statement. And when you achieve that, I think that's where we really live the culture of the company. But the morning thing, I just want to hit something there, is The first 2 hours of the morning, I will not see a email, no WhatsApp, no LinkedIn, no Facebook, nothing. The first 2 hours of the morning is my hours. It's not the hour where you can bother me. And I really recommend this. It changed my life a lot.
So tell me a little bit about your first 2 hours. What are you using that time for?
Wow. Okay. Very interesting. It's I love gardening. I love gardening now since since
That seems
COVID.
pretty peaceful, right? I know a lot of people, I personally meditate every morning before I get to work,
Yeah,
right?
that's,
So that
yeah.
seems like it would be kind of one of those, therapeutic type activities.
Yeah, I do the meditation as well. I do 10-minute headspace kind of thing. But my garden is super important since COVID. I have my vegetables, I have my fruits, I have all my little herbs and stuff like that, and I really enjoy it. And it's very peaceful, as you said. So that's my morning. I wake up, I'll do my garden, I'll water it, then I'll sit down with my coffee. I'll drink my coffee, then I'll do the 10-minute headspace because I know that the coffee is going to start kicking in just after. And then I usually will spend a bit of time with my fiance. My baby's on the way still, so I'm just spending time with the womb right now,
Oh,
talking to the womb.
congratulations.
Thank
That's
you so
that's your
much.
first one.
Yes, in 3 weeks.
Oh,
So
your life's going to change. That's awesome.
yeah, I'm a bit scared about that, to be honest. I think that that first 2 hours might change a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm saying
Yeah,
it
you
as
lose kind of some of that control. But that's a really good point, right? Um, I'm always advocating for people to get outside their comfort zone, right?
mm,
Push yourself a little bit, get uncomfortable, do things that are new to you. Having a kid, oh man, there's nothing like it, right?
I mean
And
that's growth
so,
as well, isn't it?
yeah, exact. Oh man, all sorts of growth that you can't, that's one of those experiences that you just can't tell people about. You just really can't. And so but I think there's ways for you to still, with your fiance, have those, your time, right? Like, hey, this is the time that I need for me, for our family. And you can still kind of block that off a little bit. And stuff will come up. Stuff always comes up with kids, but you're like, hey, I'm going to try to keep this part of my routine as much as possible. Um, for me, one of my greatest motivations, is my kids. And so that's awesome. I'm excited for you.
Thank
Fantastic.
you. Yeah, yeah. I mean, since you have kids, you know better than I do, and everybody tells me it's the best thing that will happen to you, and I'm like, I'm scared, but yeah, it's basically growth because I will grow as well, and I will make sure that that baby, that kid grows as you've done right with your kids. So I think it's super
What's
important.
funny is that having a kid is a lot like being a business owner. And I was on a show a couple of weeks ago, and I kind of shared um, this concept, and it's with your kids. You never look at your kids and think, they're okay, right? It's either they are the cutest thing. Like I help create the most amazing human being to ever walk the planet, or I want to beat those kids, not literally, right? But oh, they're so frustrating. They make me so mad, right? And it's really hard. It's the same way with your company, right?
Yeah,
I never look at my businesses and think, oh, they're all right. It's always, oh man, I'm so proud of them, or oh, I can't believe I did this, right? And
lots
the
of highs and
key
lows.
is, what's that?
Lots of highs, lots of lows, and they can
Exactly.
change the
The
experience.
highs and lows. But the key is, I think, for parenting and for being an entrepreneur slash business owner, is finding that middle ground, right? It's okay to feel those emotions and everything, but you can't let yourself get too high and you can't let yourself get too low. If you let yourself get too high, those lows just feel so much lower. But that's awesome. It's great hearing about your routine, and I think morning routines are awesome. And I, a couple of podcast episodes ago, we had a morning guru that talked about his routine and some principles for that. Once that employee, so we're assuming that when the employee gets to work, whether it's remote or whatever, that they've already kind of gone through their morning routine, whatever they needed to do. So what's the next step? They log in. I like this kind of line of thinking. They log in, something pops up that shows them, number one, what's the just cause, right? Are they looking at goals next, or what's kind of what do you recommend in terms of just that first, I don't know, 10 minutes?
That's a great question. The first 10 minutes, I mean, 10 minutes, it's quite short of a time, but I think that the first thing that you do, as you said, you log in, right? And that login is a company home, so you do have that sentence right in the middle on the top of there, and you know exactly your just cause. You know the mission statement. Then usually you should have a space for yourself, right? Space for your employee, where they could possibly, as you said, have some of the goals, if they're OKRs or whatever, attached to their place, so they know what they're aiming for day to day, right? They know what the company aims for, and they know how are they supporting the company with their goals, right? I think that's super important, because from the CEO, right, to the team member, sometimes the goals change. It's what we call the Arabic telephone. I don't know if they say that in the US as well. It's a very European, a French saying that I just translated actually. It's when you say something to someone and he says it to somebody else and somebody else,
Yeah,
and then
we
at
call it the telephone game. Yep, same
telephone
exact
game. Yeah,
concept.
yeah. In French they call it the Arabic telephone. I don't know why, but at the end the sentence
Yep.
is not the same at all.
It's
So
completely different, right?
exactly, and this happens a lot with goals as well, right? And sometimes the goals are so not ambitious and so not aspirational. It's like we need to hit 1 million MRR. That's not aspirational to me, right? That's great. Let's hit that. But why don't you say we want 10,000 happy customers, right? And you know that 10,000 happy
I love
customers will
that.
bring you to 1 million. So don't focus too much on the revenue. The revenue will come, right? The revenue comes if you do the right things. That's how I see it.
Yeah, this is, I mean, I really like this concept of framing the goals. And look, we're not naive here. Businesses, they operate to make money, and then a lot of businesses have other goals, right? Even larger goals. But I should say businesses can't operate unless they do make money, right? And money may be, the goal that's fourth, fifth, sixth down on the list, but it's still necessary. Um, but I think, I think this is kind of a fantastic idea, whatever those company goals are. I love the example that you gave. Hey, we want 10,000 happy customers. That changes, right? Because now
Absolutely.
it changes the individual's mindset, because now it's not about we'll take anybody, doesn't matter how we treat them, doesn't matter if we do a good service or provide a good product for them. It's whatever, sticks to the wall. But when you frame your goals in a way that and I think those goals should align with your core values, with your just cause, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think you said it quite clearly. I mean, maybe I said it wrong, but money is super important. Don't get me wrong, because if there's no money, there's no salaries. You can't eat. You can't go to work. If you're in an office, you can't even connect to the internet because you can't pay your bill, right? So we all
Right.
need money, right? So the world turns around money. We know this really well, and now it's even worse than before. So we all need the
Yeah.
money, but you cannot make people believe in a monetary goal, right? As I said, I think the monetary thing comes anyways. But if you do say about the happy customers, if you do say, okay, less churn, right? We want customers to not churn, to not, we want to build new features because they need this feature. You're still going to earn money, right? You're going to
Right.
still earn more money, but you can't be a leader. Right, and I know you love leadership in your podcast. You can't be a leader and say, "All right, we're just going for money." That's so not aspirational. But if you're a
Well, I
servant
think
leader,
one of the problems with that is, how does that benefit my people? Right? Like if we're all focused on money, like it's just a really tough way to motivate people. And people think that money is a great motivator. And study after study has shown that it's 3 or 4 down on the list. Like you mentioned something earlier that I wanted to touch on. You talked about how people need to see what their goal is and how their goal affects the company as a whole, right? One of the greatest motivations as individuals that we can have, one of the longest lasting, highest forms of motivation, is working together with other members of a team to achieve a common goal, right?
I want I want to highlight the common goal. Exactly, that common goal is super important, super important.
Yeah, so that's kind of going back to the employee gets to work, they need to see those goals, and they need to make sure that the goals are consistent across the company, right? It's not, we don't want those goals lost in translation.
Yeah, and I
What
have a question for you there. Sorry, Alan. And okay, so you come to work and you know the goals, you know the just cause. That's awesome. Does anybody ask you, do you know how we're going to get to these results? Or do they just tell you, here's what you have to do, here's the deals that you have to work on, and
Yes.
that's it? Right? Nobody, like, we forgot this. We get employees for 150K, 200K, right? In San Francisco, even more, higher, right? In the Bay Area. And then we just put them in a box. And why did we hire them? Because they're creative, they're intelligent, they have skills. And then we just put them in a box and we're like, here you go execute. Nobody turns around to them and says, hey, let's have a 10-minute break and let's ask you, how can we get to these results? Do you have an idea?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great point because, and I think that's where really good leadership comes into play, right? It's not just like, hey guys, this is what you need to do. It's first of all, we're going to start off with why we're doing any of this in the first place. Then we're going to talk about what some of our objectives are. We want 10,000 happy customers, right?
Mm-hmm.
We want to tie those goals back to our just cause. And then a great leader is going to go point by point and say, hey, this is how we're going to do it. These are the personal skills. These are the reasons why we need you, right? Why you are such an instrumental part of our company and this larger picture.
Mm-hmm. And how can we get there? You know how many times in the water cooler people will say to each other, say, oh, if we did this, this company will grow. I heard this so many times, and these people, sometimes our team members, don't have a voice, right? They say that they try to say things sometimes, and we're so busy, as you said in the beginning, we're so busy, we're running at 200 kilometers an hour, right? Or miles, sorry. And we can't stop a second and ask someone, hey, do you have a better idea on how to get there? How many times a customer support agent has fixed a problem 50 times, right? The same problem 50 times.
Yeah.
And if the product team knew that, they would possibly do 2 lines of code and that would have been fixed. And then they wouldn't have to do that. Then they can focus on different things.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to to speaking about systems, right?
Yeah.
When we take some time and step back from the minutia and look at the bigger picture, then that customer service rep can say, hey, there's got to be a better way. We want leadership that listens to what people are saying. And I think that comes from seeing the bigger picture, right? If they look at themselves as kind of, they've got a hammer and the customer is a nail and that's just what they do, then they're not able to see that bigger picture and create those systems that fix those things, which is sad because when they stop running into the same thing 50 times over, they're less frustrated. They enjoy their job more. They feel like they're contributing, right? They're not just a robot, that they're not just, paid to do this one thing, and they're actually helping create. And so, and I think it all goes back to what's the company mission and, the just cause, and is the leader reminding the person of that so that, cause it's easy because people get so busy. It's easy just to keep doing the same thing over and over. And so what tips do you have? What do you recommend to somebody that they're like, Tim, I'm too busy, man. I'm too busy to get to the long-term stuff, to paint the picture, to kind of express this vision to my people. Cause I'm like, 15 emails behind.
I mean, I think you should be a servant leader, right? This is why you hire people, so that you don't keep doing the same things, but you do the next chapter. You start preparing the next chapter for your team to follow after, right? As a leader, that's exactly what you're trying to do, the strategical stuff, right? Making sure that we're doing the next step. So what I do recommend is to really, even if we're that busy, to sometimes stop and ask our team members. Sometimes stop, ask their ideas, right? Or luckily nowadays we have lots of technologies. We have lots of tools that makes it more inclusive, that where everybody can bring ideas, where everybody can actually see the goal, the just cause, and as a leader, maybe you're 15 emails behind, and I guarantee you from that 15 emails, 10 of the emails are not as important as your team.
I think there's a lot of solutions that come from this concept of let's spend more time doing things that are important and not urgent than spinning our wheels just putting out fires, right? And as leaders, one of the most important things that we do is decide how to spend our time.
Yeah.
And I love this idea of, hey, you know what, those 10 of those 15 emails, and that's probably a good percentage, 66%. That's probably, I think about my workday, there's probably about that number of things that I spend my time doing that just, if if we didn't get to them, is it really going to make that much of a difference? But if we spend that time with a team member talking about our just cause, talking about why we are doing this in the first place, expressing our goals so that they're at the forefront of those people's minds, our team members' minds. Now that's the stuff that matters, right?
You want a team that has your back. You want a team that fights with you, right? You don't want to be the only fighter. And as leaders, we've learned so much. We're like, I'm the CEO, I'm fighting, I'm here every day. It's okay. This is why you're hiring teams. This is why you have a team, so that they can take that weight over your shoulder, right? And then you can do that strategical thinking again. That is why I'm repeating. You have the vision. You've started the vision as a CEO, as a leader, right? So keep that in your hand and make sure that you're always making sure that everybody believes in the same thing, that everybody's rowing in the same direction. If you do that, this is why I say growth will come. Growth will come.
I love it, Tim. Hey, man, I wish we had more time. We try to keep these relatively short because, my audience they're busy entrepreneurs, moving stuff around. And so, how do people find out more about all the great things that you're doing now?
Yeah, I think my website is a great place, timcakir.com. There you'll find a link to my newsletter. Every Monday I try to send out a newsletter. My LinkedIn is quite full of blogs and things that I do, so you can just find me Tim Cakir on LinkedIn as well. It'll be quite easy to find, I hope, normally. And yeah, I'm trying to do new things. So if you're in my newsletter, you'll always know what I'm up to.
Awesome. Well, thanks for your time, Tim. This has been wonderful talking about something I'm super passionate about, company culture, a just cause, RY. I think those are the things that last long after people leave companies, long after those companies no longer exist. Those are the elements of true legacy. And so thanks for sharing that with us today.
Allan, thank you so much for this opportunity. And yes, I just want to underline your just cause. Make sure you have a cause for what you're doing. Thank you.
Love it.
If you have enjoyed today's podcast, please leave us a rating. And for daily inspiration and business tips, follow Allan on Instagram. Until next time, remember, we build the future one entrepreneur at a time.